So there I was thinking I had everything figured out. Calvin and I had been together for 3 years, living together for one, and I was suffocating, like literally drowning in his constant attention. The man texted me good morning every single day, wanted to know where I was going, planned these elaborate weekend trips when sometimes I just wanted to stay in bed and binge Netflix. I'm Penelope, I'm 26, and I work in retail management, which means I deal with enough controlling people during the day without coming home to more of it. Anyway, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy my stories, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. Trust me, this one gets wild. Calvin worked in logistics, which basically meant he organized everything down to the last detail. And I mean everything. He'd plan our grocery trips, remember my coworkers' names better than I did, and cook dinner most nights, because he claimed he enjoyed taking care of me. But here's the thing. It felt more like being managed than loved. He was always there, always hovering, always trying to anticipate my needs before I even knew what they were. So one Tuesday night over some pasta dish he'd spent an hour perfecting, I finally said what needed to be said. "You're suffocating me. I need space independence. You're always there." He looked genuinely confused, which irritated me even more. "What do you mean?" I rolled my eyes because, come on, wasn't it obvious? You text me good morning every day. You want to know where I'm going. You plan these elaborate dates when sometimes I just want to chill. So you want me to care less. I want you to stop being so clingy. And just like that, he said fine. Message received. I felt this rush of satisfaction, like I'd finally gotten through to him. Finally, some breathing room. The next morning, no good morning text. At first I thought maybe he was running late for work. But then the whole day passed and nothing. When I got home, he was already there reading some book about supply chain management, like the thrilling guy he was. I mentioned wanting to try this new Thai place that opened downtown, and instead of immediately pulling out his phone to make reservations like usual, he just nodded. "Cool," he said, not looking up from his book. Friday rolled around, and I asked what we were doing that weekend. He shrugged. "Nothing planned? Thought you wanted independence?" I should have been happy, right? This was exactly what I'd asked for. "Oh yeah, exactly. Thanks for listening." But something felt off. 2 weeks into this new dynamic, I started staying out later after work, not doing anything crazy, just grabbing drinks with coworkers or wandering around the mall. I password protected my phone, not because I was hiding anything yet, but because I liked having something that was just mine. When Calvin walked into the living room while I was texting, I'd flip my phone over. It became this little power game. And Calvin, he was already asleep by the time I got home at midnight on a Wednesday. Didn't ask where I'd been, didn't seem concerned. When I canceled our anniversary dinner last minute because some work friends wanted to go out, he just ordered pizza and watched the game. When I stopped wearing the necklace he gave me for my birthday, he didn't even mention it. Here's where it gets interesting. I started going to this gym near my work, partly because I wanted to get in shape, but mostly because I was bored. Calvin used to fill all my free time with his plans and attention, and now that he wasn't, I had all these empty hours to fill. That's where I met Todd. Todd was this personal trainer, all muscles and confidence, the complete opposite of Calvin's methodical, quiet energy. Where Calvin planned everything, Todd was spontaneous. Where Calvin was always asking about my day, Todd kept things light and fun. He made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. It started innocent enough. Him helping me with my form, casual conversation between sets. But then he started texting me, asking how my workouts were going. I didn't mention I had a boyfriend. Why complicate things? The conversations got deeper. Todd would ask about my life, and I found myself complaining about Calvin without using his name. I painted this picture of living with this controlling guy who monitored my every move, who suffocated me with his neediness. Todd was so sympathetic, so understanding. He'd say things like, "You deserve someone who gives you space to be yourself." Meanwhile, at home, Calvin was giving me exactly that space, and I hated it. I'd try to start conversations about my day, and he'd listen politely but not ask follow-up questions. I'd hint about wanting to go out somewhere, and he'd say, "Sounds fun," without offering to come along or help plan it. 3 weeks after our space conversation, I broke. I came home from another evening with Todd. We'd grab dinner after my workout. Nothing physical yet, but the tension was definitely building. And Calvin was on the couch reading. Again. "Do you even love me anymore?" The words just tumbled out, and before I knew it, I was crying. Real tears because suddenly I felt so alone. Calvin looked up from his book, and his expression was unreadable. I thought this was what you wanted. I wanted space, not this. You don't care where I go. You don't plan anything. You barely talk to me. Penelope, I'm doing exactly what you asked. No, you're being petty. That's when he laughed. Actually laughed this cold sound I'd never heard from him before. I'm being petty. You told me I was suffocating you. I gave you space. Now you're mad I'm not suffocating you. I went quiet because when he put it like that, it sounded bad. But that wasn't what I meant. I didn't think you'd actually change. What? The truth came out in the smallest voice. I wanted to see if you fight for me. Prove you cared. Calvin stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, get out. What? Pack a bag and go stay with your sister. We'll talk tomorrow. I left sobbing about how he was overreacting, how he was being dramatic. But as I drove to Camden's apartment, part of me felt relieved. Finally, he was showing some emotion. Finally, he was reacting. The next morning, I texted him 47 times. I'm sorry you're being ridiculous. Please just talk to me. The whole range. He responded once, come by at 6 p.m. to get your things. I showed up at noon instead. You can't just kick me out. I live here. Calvin pulled up something on his phone. Actually, only my name is on the lease. My stomach dropped. When we'd moved in together, my credit was trash from some stupid decisions in college. Calvin put down the entire security deposit and first month's rent, so his name went on the lease alone. We talked about adding me once I paid him back for my half of the deposit, but I'd never gotten around to it. You wouldn't. I am. I'm giving you 30 days legal notice. That's more than required. That's when I decided to drop my trump card. I've been seeing someone else. I expected shock, hurt, anger. Instead, Calvin took a slow sip of his coffee. I know. What? Penelope, I'm not stupid. The late nights, the protected phone, the sudden need for independence. How long? I broke down and told him everything. About Todd, about how it started. About how Calvin's emotional distance had pushed me toward someone who actually seemed to care. It's not like that, I said through my tears. Explain how it's not like that. I couldn't because it was exactly like that. Does Todd know about me? Calvin asked. I looked confused. What? Does Todd know you have a boyfriend, that you live with me? My silence was answer enough. Let me guess. You told him you're single. Maybe mentioned a controlling ex you're trying to get away from. The look on my face must have given it away. Here's what's going to happen, Calvin said, his voice eerily calm. You have 30 days to find a new place. Take whatever's yours, leave what's mine. And Penelope, tell Todd the truth. Because if you don't, I will. You don't even know him. Calvin smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Todd Morrison, personal trainer at Elite Fitness, drives a blue Challenger, lives in those apartments on 5th Street. My jaw dropped. How did he know all that? Like I said, I pay attention. I grabbed some clothes and left, but this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, Todd messaged me. We need to talk. We met at a coffee shop and he looked pissed. She told me she was single, he said without preamble. I don't mess with taken women. That's not my style. Apparently Calvin had reached out to him directly. They'd compared notes and it was worse than I thought. I'd painted Calvin as this obsessive ex who wouldn't let me move on while I was literally going home to him every night. When did she tell you the truth? Todd asked. Yesterday, after he gave me 30 days notice, I came to your place crying about how my crazy ex was kicking me out illegally. Todd showed me their text conversations. The timeline Calvin had laid out proof of everything. It was surreal sitting there with Todd while he learned how thoroughly I'd played us both. Damn, he said. She played us both. Yeah. What are you going to do? Already did it. She's got 27 more days to move out. After that, she's not my problem. Todd was quiet for a minute. She's been practically living at my place the last week. Brought over a bunch of stuff. Clothes, jewelry, some electronics. Something clicked in Calvin's expression. What kind of electronics? iPad, Nintendo Switch, some camera equipment. Those are mine, Calvin said, his voice tight. My iPad, my Switch, my camera. I watched Todd's face change as he realized what I'd done. I had no idea, man. You want me to? Don't let her leave with them. Just put them aside. I'm not dealing with that drama right now, but they're mine. Got it. They exchanged numbers, which felt weird, but also kind of inevitable. That night, Todd called me from his phone. What did you tell him? The truth. You should try it sometime. He's barely talking to me. He says you showed him proof I was lying. Because you were lying. I wasn't. It's complicated. It's really not. I hung up, but Todd texted me 20 minutes later. She's packing her stuff, says she's going to stay with her sister. Tried to take your electronics. I told her they were staying here until you two figured it out. She wasn't happy. The next morning, I woke up to Camden tagging me in a Facebook post. Can someone explain why my sister showed up at 1 a.m. with garbage bags full of clothes, talking about 2 different guys ruining her life? Because I'm confused. I'd been texting Calvin all night from Camden's phone since he'd blocked my number, begging him to reconsider, saying I'd made a mistake, that I loved him, that I'd do anything, even therapy. He texted back, individual therapy, not couples. You need to figure out why you do this. So you'll take me back if I go to therapy? No, I'm saying you need therapy regardless. I'm done. That's when I lost it. I accused him of being heartless, of planning this, of probably cheating too, of ruining my life, of turning Todd against me. Then I threatened him, I'll tell everyone what you did to me. What did I do exactly? You emotionally abused me. You abandoned me when I needed space. You made me feel unloved. Calvin screenshotted that conversation. Then he posted on Facebook, funny how asking for space and independence in a relationship suddenly becomes emotional abuse when you give someone exactly what they asked for. The comments were brutal. All our mutual friends, people who'd watched Calvin plan surprise parties for me, who'd seen him stress about making me happy, who'd witnessed him bending over backward while I complained about being suffocated. They all saw right through me. But the real gut punch came from Camden. She messaged me privately. This isn't the first time. We met for coffee and my sister looked exhausted. Your post is making the rounds. Can we talk? There's something you should know. Camden pulled out her phone, showing me old texts between us from 2 years before I'd met Calvin. The pattern was identical to what I'd just done. Me getting bored with my ex Marcus, finding someone new, creating conflict, to make the guy seem like the bad guy, then playing victim when it all blew up. I tried to warn Marcus, but subtly. He didn't get it. I thought maybe with Calvin it would be different. You were so good together. Why didn't you warn me more directly? Camden sighed. Would you have listened? And you're my sister. I kept hoping you'd grow out of it. She showed me more evidence. The gym membership Todd worked at Camden had been paying for it. I told her I needed it for my mental health because Calvin was becoming controlling. When did he become controlling? She asked. I thought about it. Right around when that guy from work started flirting with me. He got transferred, so you moved on to the next one. The patterns were all there. I'd just been too caught up in my own drama to see them. This is at least the 3rd time I know of, Camden said. You find someone stable, get bored, create a narrative where you're the victim, line up the next guy, then burn everything down when it doesn't go perfectly. Why are you telling me this now? Because you're my sister and I love you, but you need to hit rock bottom, and you won't get help if I keep enabling you. Camden showed me one last text I'd sent that morning. Thanks for nothing. When I'm homeless, it's your fault too. Always someone else's fault, she said. Day 30 came faster than I expected. I showed up with a U-Haul and some guys Camden had hired to help move my stuff. Calvin had everything neatly packed in boxes. Todd had dropped off my stolen electronics the day before. Well, Calvin's electronics that I'd tried to steal. The exchange took 10 minutes. No drama, no confrontation. Is that it? I asked as they loaded the last box. What else would there be? I don't know. Anything. Some emotion. Something to show you cared. Calvin looked at me for a long moment. I cared for 3 years, Penelope. You just weren't paying attention. I left without another word. 2 months later, I'm working at a different retail store for less money and living in a studio apartment I can barely afford. Calvin moved on completely. Not with someone new, but with a life that doesn't include my chaos. Todd started dating a nurse from his gym and warns people about me when my name comes up. Camden cut contact after I tried to manipulate her into taking sides against Calvin. Look, maybe I made some mistakes. Fine, yeah, I cheated. But Calvin pushed me to it with his suffocating behavior, then abandoned me when I asked for what I needed. Todd should have fought harder for what we had instead of believing Calvin's lies. And Camden should have supported her own sister instead of siding with my ex. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but everyone overreacted. I just wanted to feel alive, to have some excitement in my relationship. Is that really so wrong? Apparently everyone thinks it is, but I know the truth. I deserved better than what Calvin was giving me. And I deserve better than how this whole thing turned out. Sometimes you have to take what you want in life, even if other people don't understand. At least now I'm free to find someone who actually appreciates me.